Yeah,
I love my
sometimes I'm
son.
curious what they're thinking about when they plan these things. So, all right, it's 10:06. I say we go ahead and get going. Welcome everybody to the Disabilities and Conditions of Aging Network, now hosted by Walking Spirit. Um, and yeah, so I'm no longer providing outreach services to advocates. And really, though that's still a service on my website, I'm taking that down because my focus really has got to be on accessible diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and really getting any organization that touches the public sector to understand why accessible needs to be in front of those DEI or DEIB acronyms. So that's what I am focusing on now. I will also share that yesterday, and you guys can ask questions about this later if you want, but I want folks to get a chance to say hello. But over the last 2 days, I have had the wonderful pleasure of getting to test out the next generation of my power knees. So 7.5 years ago, I started walking on an a, a prosthetic leg, or two prosthetic legs that have both a microprocessor and an artificial intelligence, and would actually give me the ability to simply move my hips and the knees would move the way they're supposed to. Or one of the functions that was a big selling point was a stair ascent mode and a stair descent mode, where the knee would give me resistance as I went down the steps, and it would actually help lift as I went up, which I thought would be a game changer. But 7.5 years ago, I realized very quickly that that function was really not effective yet for a bilateral above knee amputee. It was great for somebody who was just using one prosthetic, but using both, it was next to impossible to stay in the timing. And so on Tuesday, they programmed a set of new knees and put them on me to try out. And I actually got to keep them overnight. And I went to my parents' house. And the very first thing I did was get out of my car, walk up the steps to their house. So we're talking 13 steps up a hill to get to their porch. Walked right into the house, turned left, walked up the steps to the second floor, and stood in my childhood bedroom for the first time in 15 years. And then turned around and walked right back down the steps with no need to stop and rest until I got to the bottom, at which point I was like, okay, I'm sweaty, I need a Coke. So, but such an amazing advancement in the technology. Uh, the funny thing being that the way that this all works with providers and insurance providers and whatnot is, we started this process 2 months ago, and initially they were pushing for me to get prior authorization from the insurance company for this new set within 2 weeks, and that was never going to happen. And so then I tried to get the prosthetist office and my doctor to talk, because my doctor has to write the prescription for the prosthetist to then move forward, and the insurance company has to approve that. Wound up having to become the middleman because they were not communicating and sharing information right and getting bits and pieces. So it wound up taking me about a month and a half to get through all that communication. And so we knew we weren't going to get authorization. So I got to test these legs. The idea was that if we had authorization, I would get to just keep them. But at the end of yesterday, they packed up the test knees and took them to Texas so somebody else could try them out. And then we went into the office to find out where we were with the authorization process, and we're told that it had just arrived. So we now have approval to move forward, but the legs went to Texas. So so we have to get to start that all over again. So that's kind of what's been going on in my world. And like I said, we can talk more about Walking Spirit and my direction there. Carly, thank you for the suggestion of SHRM and putting that back in my head to address that. So I'm gonna say we walk around the screen. Carly, you want to go ahead? No?
I actually put myself on mute, which is something I almost never do. and then regret whenever I do. But hi, everybody. I'm Carly Schertino Poulter. I'm the director of the ARC Advocacy Network at the ARC of Indiana. I'm also the very proud mom of a 22-year-old son with autism and a 16-year-old son with anxiety and depression and all that fun jazz. So,
Wow. I'm curious, uh, have they connected with the neurodiverse support group that Accessibility is doing? And is that even something that somebody that age would be at all interested in being part of?
my younger son, yes. My older son, no, because that's people. And he that is not it takes a long time for him to warm up. So the things we work on. The thing with him right now is he's he has maintained his job for 2 years, so very, very proud of him. The problem is he works at Bed Bath and Beyond.
Oh,
They're all closing June 30th. So
oh
so
no.
we are, he had his VR intake last week, and so we are, about to launch into all of that again. So yeah.
So my first run through VR, I had no idea what I could ask for, and so asked for the bare minimum.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sure you know better. So, so this second time through, as they're helping me support Walking Spirit and really get it to where it's sustainable,
Yeah.
I'm really having to put my head in the clouds and think about like what really do we need?
Sure. No, absolutely. And are you familiar with I don't know that it's a really good correlation here, but are you familiar with an organization called Portals LLC?
They're working with me on the business plan and the financial planning aspect of it, to do all the projections and everything. So yeah, we're
And
into
if the other people on the call have never heard of it, it's an organization whose purpose is to help people with disabilities start their own businesses. And providing support, whether it's the nuts and bolts of how to do that, but then also, how do you do that in, while you're on benefits, what are the special programs that could be out there? And so that's their specialty. So
And yeah, the person I've been working with through them has been fantastic. I
good,
actually probably need to get them on this network sometime soon. So,
good, good.
all right. Kendall Tilton, you did not get to say hello last month. Would you like to jump in?
Yeah, technical difficulties. I blame Amazon. Yes. Um, I'm super excited. Our career center is it has an actual kind of date. Um, the apartments associated with that Passage Apartments will be opening with a move-in date of July 9th. Super exciting. And the career center will be opening when they finish construction shortly thereafter. So let's call it August 1st.
Great.
So we're super excited.
And what kind of support does your career center have? Are they all connected now with lots of other folks out there to help them find and place
I am
people?
I'm still seeking any partnerships that we can get. Honestly, one grant that I was really hoping for did not pan out. So, that we're all familiar with that, I think. Uh, so one access that we were going to have is not there. But we are partnering with businesses, try and find a direct route. We're partnering with Purdue Extension to provide some training. Really want to get their restaurant and hotel expertise in there for people that want it. We're also going to partner with Wheeler Mission to help them with some job placement. So we're looking at direct company partnerships, but we're also looking at trying to provide a wide variety of other nonprofits in providing training as much as we can do to help people move forward.
That's great. We should probably talk, especially about the hotel restaurant stuff. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
I'm always
And
here.
and
All
Kendall,
right.
what organization are you with?
Noble.
Oh, okay.
Yes, all the reason why you guys should all know each other. So And that's, it's so interesting that we get into all of what our organizations are doing, and we know about everybody, but we tend to not know what everyone's got going on. So, Courtney Hunt, would you like to say hello?
Hi everyone, I'm Courtney Hunt. In my daytime life, I am what is called a service coordinator at a subsidized HUD apartment, independent living complex for people 55 and and so we're always looking for presenters to come in or anybody who has resources for people who are aging and are kind of seeing that deterioration in health so they can remain aging in place. And then in my other life, I am also a owner and co-founder of an organization called Ambassadors of Hope, where we do some parenting education classes, and we also provide supports to foster families. So again, those kiddos coming into care have all kinds of disabilities, emotional, physical, intellectual. So we're always, again, looking for resources to help those foster parents.
Before I forget, would folks please put their contact info into the chat so that you all know how to reach one another, and websites, that kind of information as well. So, Kristen Ludiker Siebert, how are you?
I am here. It is the last day of school, so I'm so excited.
Yay.
Yay. Although marching band starts on Tuesday, so it's not like the kid gets a break. Carly, it was crazy when you said that Michael's 16, because in my head he's forever 13, even though I know that he is older than Zachary. Michael's still always 13 in my head forever.
Zachary's still 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when we met, when our kids were young. All right, so I am the System of Care Coordinator for Hamilton County. Nonprofit is called Healthier Hamilton County Systems of Care. It was an informal merge with Partnership for a Healthy Hamilton County when the grant funding from the state ended for me and they needed an executive director. So we just kind of all merged together. We are, as the System of Care coordinating company, I guess, in Hamilton County, you can think of it as we fill those gaps that other systems are not, cannot, don't have the capacity to. I'm kind of like a pivot, point person. So we have an idea and, bring it to Systems of Care. We'll talk about it and we'll see if we can get something together. So right now, the big things that we are doing, there's a resources blog on our website, which I will put that in the chat. We've continuously had an early childhood initiative. Most recently, we did an early childhood mental health webpage. And right now we are looking at how to get in front of pregnant mothers as soon as possible to start giving those resources on childcare, steps to take, et cetera, et cetera. And then I also am the facilitator of our Stronger Veterans, Stronger Communities Suicide Prevention Coalition. So that actually, Jeremy, if I can add like a hot second, I was just wondering if there was anyone in attendance today that sees an intersection between the disabilities community and the veteran community. And if so, if that's something that your organization takes care of, would you like to become a part of our Suicide Prevention Coalition? Or do you know of anyone?
Well, I mean, I think anytime somebody, regardless of what community they come from, anytime somebody is struggling with those thoughts, concerns, to the point where they're not recognizing that it's an option that sure everybody thinks about, but when you start thinking about a plan and action, that's when you really need help. And so I've told you before, I've dealt with those thoughts, and I am happy anytime to talk about what that's like. And yes, from a disability standpoint, from a veteran standpoint, I mean, really, realistically, how many of us out there don't have some form of disability, whether or not you can see it?
True.
And whether or not you've acknowledged it yet. But so, yeah, I'm happy to help anytime.
All right, perfect. Yeah, if anybody comes up with any thoughts or anything like that, please let me know. I'll put my information in the chat. And I guess I forgot to say too, Carly and I talked about our kids, but a proud mom of a finishing his freshman year of high school today, starting sophomore year next week. He is the epitome, look up ADHD in the DSM, and that is my child. So yeah, that's my kid.
He's in 4th grade. No.
I'm sorry, he's in 4th grade forever. That's what I meant to say.
Wow. What instrument is he playing in the marching band?
He plays the baritone saxophone. So he is one of 3 right now, which there are like 300 kids in the band, but only 3 baritone saxophones. So he's got like a big job there because they're the loudest saxophones too. So you got to hear them and you got to be good, right? Like you can't mess up.
Encourage him to take that into the jazz band. That always seemed like one of the best instruments to play on the stage. So
he's considered jazz band. He is in concert band. That's always a class like throughout the day, right? And then marching band is like an extra credit because it's before and after school and over the summer. He's talked about jazz band, but this year he was like, I don't know. So, but each year they have the opportunity to join if they want.
Nice.
Yep.
All right. David
Thank you.
Love. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, thank you for giving me the space to ask that question. And if anybody has any thoughts on the disability and veteran like intersection and within suicide prevention, please reach out to me.
Absolutely. Yes. And you always have the space to ask that question. You know that. So, David, how are you? It's good to see you again.
Thank you. I'm glad I can actually make it today. It's been a while. But I'm David Love. I am now the office administrator for the Center for Interfaith Cooperation. When I started, when Jeremy invited me to these, I was an AmeriCorps member serving with the CIC. And I'm also someone with an autoimmune disease and the son of someone with several autoimmune diseases and frontotemporal dementia. Bringing in a couple of other people brought in their personal things as well. So I thought I would as well. At CIC, we've long had with our AmeriCorps member that serves here at CIC, they've worked on a mental health focus, and with trying to increase the knowledge and of mental health issues and access to mental health resources in faith communities, as well as increase the knowledge of those faiths with the providers. And the major way that we've been doing this is with a partnership with NAMI Indiana. They had gotten some great grants that took their time elsewhere, the person that had been helping us, and so haven't been able to partner as closely with us, and so it's been on hold for about a year, and we're just starting up again. In fact, at the end of this month, we're starting up the steering committee again to figure out, okay, how do we want to restart this? How do we want to go about this? And our hope is in the fall, like September ish, restart the monthly presentation series. The series has had a focus of faith leaders, mental health professionals, and then also just general audience as well. And yeah, that's much where we are.
Are those series, is that virtual, or are those actual in-person events, or?
Well, they were in person before COVID, and then they went 100% online from March 2020 through April of last year.
Okay.
And so that's one of the things we're going to be talking about is, do we do hybrid? Do we do in person? I don't think it's going to be only online anymore. It could be hybrid, perhaps. That's something that we have to decide. As someone that was deeply involved with this last year, I was asked to be on the steering committee, and I'm pleased with that, and so I'll be on the steering committee this year. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
Okay. Well, when you get to the point where you need to publicize stuff, please make certain that you share it with me. I will try to share things with the network as well, and try to be a little bit better about that than I was previously. So, but yeah, please absolutely make certain that we can help push that out for you. So,
all right, thank you.
my pleasure. All right, Heather Wildrick Holman, would you like to say hello?
Yes, hi, hello. Heather Wildrick Holman. I am the Assistant Director for the Marion County Community Partners for Child Safety, which is a prevention program of Firefly. Firefly, if folks, we're still doing our best to get the word out. We were formerly Children's Bureau. We merged with Families First. And then last year, it's hard to believe it's been an entire year, we revealed our new name, which is Firefly Children and Family Alliance. But we are the prevention program of Firefly. Firefly has a wide, vast variety of programs, but we are an in-home case management program that works with folks that are the primary caregiver of children 17 and younger. We, as of effective January 1, can also now begin to work with pregnant folks as well. We do a wide variety of child safety programming in the community, educational topics, parent ed groups, safe sleep, car seat safety, things like that on top of our in-home case management. One thing I'd like to share is last year we did hire a VP of DEI, which I was excited about. A lot of folks will talk a lot about that, but you have to truly be intentional about that, right? But what's been really exciting about that is she's been really doing a strategic kind of top to bottom analysis of our organization to make sure that, we truly are accessible to all, that all folks who engage and interact with us feel safe in doing so. And so that's been exciting to start to see some of those initiatives begin to roll out in our various programs. So yeah, there is a program like Community Partners all across the state of Indiana. Firefly does hold about a third of those various regional contracts. Happy to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us. I'm curious, so because Carly and I were talking about this, some of you might have heard a little bit when we were first at the beginning of the meeting, but as you've seen that analysis of the organization, you mentioned accessibility. How much have people with disabilities been in that DEI conversation?
That is a great question. I would have to double check with Michelle because I'm not the one that really has my finger on that pulse per se.
Sure.
And to be very transparent and honest, I had to take a brief leave of absence due to a family tragedy. I'm just kind of starting to, in a part-time capacity, get back to work. But I did last week hear her start to report on that. I was really excited to see the headway that we had been making in regards to all that. And I thought that was worth sharing today. But I'm happy to share, to go back and take that to Michelle and get that answer for you.
Well, and thanks. And please feel free to share my info. That's
okay.
So that conversation at the beginning was really sort of about the fact that with the big buzzwords of diversity, equity, inclusion, now belonging getting added to the end of that, every time I see printed material about that, those topics, every time I hear conversations about those topics, typically I only hear disability mentioned as an aspect of it. It maybe once in the conversation, might get mentioned towards the end of a letter. And that's kind of my goal, is to try to work within the public sector to get any organization that's working with people to understand that people with disabilities, when seen as an actual culture, represent the largest minority in the
Yes.
world, and that minority is exponentially growing as a result of both trauma and aging. So
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No, I
and-
would be happy to connect you to Michelle. I'm sure she would love to be connected and have some, I'm sure, wonderful conversations with you.
yeah, that would be great. So, and I put my contact info in there. I will say, if anybody looks at my website right now, I made the mistake of clicking a button last night, and things are not the way they're supposed to look. So, that I have yet to figure out how to undo what I did. So there's some work happening with that today. All right, Heather, if you don't have anything else, I'm going to ask Kaylin Underhill to say hello, so that she can get in before she may have to leave again, because I know she pops in and out.
Hello, everybody. Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button. I am Kaylin Underhill, health educator at the Hamilton County Health Department. And really, Jim and I just got done with all the schools, so a lot of our time is free. We're searching for new partnerships at the moment. I will resend all of my information in the chat. And then we also have a little bit of an updated quick course fact sheet that has all of our programs on there. And I'm also in the middle of making a brochure that I plan to send out in this group too. So it has like all of our resources on there, so you can reach anybody else, even if it's outside of me and Jim, just for anybody's convenience. If you would like to partner, feel free to reach out to me, and I would love to get that conversation started with you.
Awesome. Thank you. Krista Martin, would you like to say hi?
I sure would. I was actually just pulling up some links to be able to share in the chat. Krista Martin, Direct Employers Association. We are a nonprofit member association built for and by employers. So we're comprised of over 1,000 employers. We also co-host the National Labor Exchange with the National Association of State Workforce Agencies. So we're, heavily partnered in the American Job Centers and vocational rehabilitation systems as well. And we're headquartered there in Indianapolis, actually. So good to see some of our other partners on the call today. So I'm going to share links for the ability site as well as our veterans site. Kristen, thanks so much for joining us today and sharing your information and helping our veterans live another day. It's a really important thing that you're doing, and suicide prevention, and I'm sure you're already working with the VA and other partners in the area in that realm as well. But I encourage you to share the veterans site with folks to be able to utilize. It has a military crosswalk for MOC codes. It identifies the Hire Vets Medallion Program employers, the majority of which are our members. They can search by military title and things. So if they're looking for employment, internships, apprenticeships, employer and labor market information, it's a really amazing resource. We're actually getting ready to partner nationwide with the U.S. Army Reserve and their P3 program for those folks. So we're in that process right now of formalizing that national partnership for our Army reservists and their families that are needing training and employment as well. So for any of our partners that do employment services for folks, whether it's people with disabilities or veterans or other minorities and groups, please reach out to me and we'll see what kind of partnership opportunities and free resources that we can provide to hopefully improve more positive employment outcomes for the folks that you're serving.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. All right. Let me look at my screen because everybody's moved around. Kelly Ivy, would you like to fill us in on how you're doing and what's going on in your part of the world?
Hello, good morning. It's been a minute since I've been able to be, I think I've only been on one or two of your other calls, but just never seems to align right with my calendar. So I apologize, but I'm always glad when I can get on and get some information. My name is Kelly Ivy, and I'm the executive director for the Goodwin Community Center. We're located on the southwest side of Indianapolis, in Decatur Township, kind of borderline Decatur, Wayne Township area. And then I'm also the executive director for the Decatur Township Drug-Free Coalition. So we, obviously our community center, we're always looking for, ways to connect our community members with different resources in the area and other ways that we can just help them with all of their needs, from food insecurities to other things as well. And then our Drug-Free Coalition, we run that off of a Drug-Free Communities grant. It's a federal grant, and we are in year 7 of that grant. Or 6, I apologize. I'm already planning year 7, so I'm getting ahead of myself. Year 6 of that grant, where we focus on youth substance prevention in Decatur Township. So we do a lot of training, life skills training, and just parent education and so forth in our area for parents from kids from K through 12, and then just a little bit beyond that as well.
All right. Thank you very much. So there's a phone number that ends in 0256. I feel like I should know who that is. And yet, do you want to say hi, whoever's the phone number that ends in 0256? Oh, I guess not. So, all right. Well, now I think everybody that's on has had a chance to say hi and talk about what's going on. I did get an update email on my advocates email the other day from Beth DeHoff that said, where did that go? Of course, now it's not giving me the whole thing. That she had heard from Kathy Robinson, if anybody knows that name, and that they had confirmation that yes, parents of minor children on the aged and disabled waiver will continue to be able to be paid caregivers. They also will not be limited to 40 hours a week. And then she said that under beads, that will end in November, but aged and disabled will continue even after the DDARS transition. Does that all sound right to you, Carly? Yes. Okay. You muted yourself again.
And I'm dealing with 2 screens that are in completely opposite ways. So in May, we actually had Kathy Robinson on as our featured speaker for Ask the ARC, where she was addressing these exact issues. I'm going to put the link to that YouTube video in the chat. I will warn you right now, it was really, really long because we took a lot of questions. So you don't have to watch the whole thing. Do not freak out when you see it's an hour and 45 minutes long. It's because of all the questions we had. But Kathy was addressing a lot of the some of the issues with Medicaid unwinding, but then also a lot of the questions that are coming up with transition from the aged and disabled waiver and the TBI waiver over to DDRS, which has actually been pushed back to summer of next year. And one of the things I want to say, we've got a lot of things that are changing right now. We're dealing with Medicaid unwinding. We're dealing with, the unwinding of some pandemic related flexibilities. One of the things I want to urge is that, we're hearing a lot of information, but the thing is, this information is evolving. So you may hear one thing and then 2 months later hear something completely different. It's not necessarily that the first one was wrong. It could simply be that it has changed since then. And so, for example, one of the things that the state was saying beforehand was that premiums and power account contributions for Medicaid were going to start being collected again July 1st. They have not formally addressed that to my knowledge yet. What I am hearing from sources I trust is that that's going to be pushed back to January 1st. So again, the state has not officially announced that yet, so I cannot swear to that. But people who I have confidence in, that's what I'm hearing from them. And as soon as I get that confirmation, Jeremy, of course, I'll share that with you.
Thank you. And this kind of raises the question that I always have, which is this network doing what you guys need? And I mean, I think the fact that you've been coming back for about a year now has been helpful, but I'd love your input on that. And I'm going to ask the person who's on the phone that ends in 0256. Did you want to say hello?
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'm on the phone, not able to connect to the computer yet. Yes, my name is Rafael Aguilar, and I represent Indiana Donor Network. Basically, it is the little red heart in our driver license to become an organ donor once we die. And we have the whole registry for the state of Indiana, but we also educate the community about organ and transplants. Out there's like many misinformation, and we want to educate as much as possible all the different communities in Indiana, and we're looking for different events or speaking opportunities, or anyone that would like us to go or have a speaker. We're more than welcome to do that. And sorry that I just couldn't. I was having problems here with my phone before to be able to communicate, but yeah, that's what who we are.
Thank you, Rafael. I'm thrilled that you joined us today. So I actually and I don't know that we've connected in the past. I know we've been on a couple meetings together, which is how I wound up inviting you to this. But if you haven't heard my story, I lost both legs in a car accident, vehicle fire, about 17 years ago, a little over. And I was in a medically induced coma for 6 weeks, and I actually received skin from 6 different donors. And the interesting thing about that was that I didn't know that because by the time I woke up from the medically induced coma, they had actually harvested my own skin and were able to graft that where I had the cadaver skin previously. So it wasn't until about 2 years after my recovery, or into my recovery, that somebody called and asked if I would talk about what it was like to be a tissue recipient. And it was a very interesting thing to find out that I had other people's skin, and that was a big part of why they were able to get control over the infections that I was suffering, and to get me to where I am today. So if I can ever be of any support talking about what it's like to be a recipient, I am more than happy to do so.
Well, that's a great story, and thank you for sharing. You were on the news recently. Kind of remember your story, but I don't know where exactly. But yeah, it is a great story.
Thanks. Well, it's interesting depending on where you hear it, what parts you actually get. So I have not done any news stuff for a while, but within the last couple of years, maybe you might have stumbled across that. Yeah, but happy to talk about that anytime if you need somebody to do so.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. And yeah, I'm glad that you're doing well, and in all what well, you're a live example what transplantation and organ donation can do for us.
Absolutely. So we've gotten through everybody. We're a little bit early. Like I said, for anybody who joined in late, Walking Spirit is now hosting this network. My contract came to an end with advocates, and rather than renewing it, I decided that I really needed to focus on Walking Spirit and growing its services and really getting out into the community and doing what I set out to do, which, as you guys may heard earlier, was working with the public sector to get them to understand that accessibility really needs to be right in front of that DEI conversation. And so the 3 services that Walking Spirit offers: inspirational speaking. I'm always happy to share my story and how it applies, depending on the organization and who's asking me to do that. I mean, obviously, if Kristen wants me to speak with somebody about, or an organization about, what I have experienced, it's more important to me to get the message out than to make a profit off of that. Same thing if talking about, being a tissue recipient. But then if somebody wants me to come and do an inspirational speech at a conference, that's probably going to be a bigger fee. I am also offering accessible DEIB consulting and support. And then for anybody with a disability or any family affected by disabilities, I'm offering a one-time complimentary consultation to simply talk about how do you start making that adaptation when you acquire a disability, and connecting with resources. And then if those folks want to continue with me as an ongoing coach, then we get into an hourly fee for that. So that's pretty much what Walking Spirit is doing and the direction that we're going at this point. And I am here to help and support any of you guys, because I love all of your organizations and just am thrilled to see you all continuing to connect on a regular basis. I will try to figure out the Survey Monkey, because I am hearing that some folks haven't been able to get on because the timing of the meetings have been inconvenient. So I'll see if maybe I can find us a better time now that Walking Spirit's really in the driving seat of this network. So please let me know if there's anything that you guys need, anything that you want to see done differently, or anything that you want time on the agenda to talk about beyond just us saying hi and me picking you randomly as we go on my screen. Kristen, what is going on with your screen? Did you see that? No? Oh, it just blinked.
I did. Yeah. Looked like it was having a seizure, for lack of a better term.
A virtual seizure. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay.
I thought
glad
I
that
was going
wasn't
to
just
have a
me.
seizure, for lack of a better term.
Right. So, anybody got anything that they want to add or spend the last 10 minutes talking about?
Well, I did put in the chat to save the date, Thursdays of the month, Indianapolis Disability Talent Showcase. It's a hybrid meeting, so you can attend via Zoom or in person at Easter Seals Crossroads. And it's, third Thursdays of the month from 1 to 2 to connect employers and providers and VR and job seekers with disabilities. So encourage you guys to, attend, or if you have folks, looking for work and want to network and connect. It's growing. We're pushing towards our 1-year mark as well. So yeah, love to see more positive employment outcomes coming from the talent showcase.
Absolutely. Krista, that sounds to me like something that maybe Noble's Career Center needs to be involved in if they're not already.
He totally is.
Okay.
I totally snagged Kendall. I was like, Kendall, you have to come to these meetings. This is where you need to be. And he does. So we appreciate Noble's participation, and hopefully we'll get to report some outcomes, from the connections being made, through those meetings. I think the coolest one is the FBI comes now.
Wow.
To recruit, which is so cool to me. Like, Kendall, do you want to say anything about the showcase?
The FBI guys, it's just such an interesting thing. So it's such a weird placement. Like, well, it'll be a year background check.
Yeah, right. Well, people don't realize all the different positions within the FBI. Like, it's not just field agents. Like, there's a
Right.
lot of administration and, research and different things that people do. I mean, and from payroll to, whatever. So, if you got anybody who wants to work for the FBI,
I
come
would
to the
love
meeting
to
and
make
connect.
that placement. I am.
That's
Is that
fascinating.
the one you're really shooting for? Like, don't worry about Lily or, whoever. Like, I want the FBI.
Absolutely. It would just be so cool. Come on.
No, it totally would.
That is great.
It would be super cool. So yeah, we're really happy with how that's going. We're meeting to make plans for, what we're gonna do for the 1-year anniversary and of course NDEAM activities. And then here in just a few weeks is the National APSI Conference in Columbus, Ohio, for anybody that's in that world. I'll be there presenting an ethics session on Service Animals 101. So
Nice. So I'm curious, since you mentioned the service animals, do you include in that conversation anything like when you talk about ethics and service animals, hospitality organizations, hotels, restaurants, learning that they cannot turn those animals away even if they don't accept pets?
yes, that is actually, so that's part of it's a really cool training. It's very interactive. I do live polling and things, and that is one of the questions is, a person, service animals team comes into a restaurant and is seated away outside, away from other patrons, can they do that, or not? So
Right.
I actually talk about that. And then I also give a personal experience with a gentleman with blindness and low vision who had a guide dog at a hotel in Dallas. And, he comes into the restaurant, I'm in there, and the host immediately just starts interacting with his guide dog without the guy's knowledge, because he wasn't, able to see what was, happening. And I got stuck in this bystander ally conundrum of, what do I do ethically, like in this situation? Like, do I go to the host? Do I go to the manager? Do I go to the guide? Like, what do I do? And, so it was a learning moment for me too, being in that situation and struggling with like, how do I approach this? Like, I'm seeing this happening. I know it's not okay. What do you do? And what I should have done was just gotten right up and gone directly to the gentleman and said, sir, are you aware that the host is interacting with your guide dog? I just, I wanted to make sure that you are aware, because he didn't ask permission.
Sure.
Which is what you do. You always ask permission. And, best practice is really to act as though the service animal is not there.
Right.
They don't exist, just, fight all the urges to
Right.
I need you to shove that all way down deep inside,
And
because it's not about you.
And this is the stuff.
And so the manager, I actually had the pleasure of like having Marriott International's like main guy with me and having a conversation with him, and Mary Fernandez, who's an incredible advocate in the blind and low vision community. And he sent out a text staff-wide to the entire hotel staff right there and had me review it before he sent it and made sure it looked good, just completely instructing all staff on that property as to what the etiquette and procedure is when there's a service animal present, and what to do about that. So, it turned out very well. And, I think that they ended up seeing the need for further training in that. Because I also had another disability related etiquette moment, while I was checking in at that same hotel. And then I had another disability related incident and another thing at that hotel. And so we were able to talk about those things and have a candid, courageous conversation, about that and what that looks like, and, how to better educate the staff in dealing with those situations of what I like to call benevolent ableism.
Right.
So, they don't mean any harm, but it doesn't mean it's not harmful. You know,
Well, and
your intentions may be well, but it doesn't mean you're not hurting people or that their feelings are valid or, these other things. So I'll leave that for another time. I know, we're
right at the end, but yeah, I mean, that's absolutely, though, the point is that, I mean, it is the year 2023. None of this is new. And yet, that training doesn't exist. I mean, Marriott might be doing something now that they weren't doing 20 years ago that has, put that forward. And I would bet I've seen some stuff recently about some of their approaches to DEI, but so I would bet that it's better than it was when I left the hotel industry. But like even at Purdue University, where I majored in hospitality and tourism management, the only mention of disabilities during my entire curriculum was maybe 5 minutes in the hotel law class, where the ADA was mentioned as a law that we need to pay attention to so we know how many parking spaces and how many hotel rooms we need. But there wasn't even any exploration of what that means from an architectural guideline standpoint and how you access that information. And so, I mean, and even in my career, the only time that we talked about disabilities was if we had a convention of people with a particular disability. And so, like, it was amazing to learn what sign language you might need when checking in a guest, because we had a convention of people that were all deaf. But that was the only time that we explored that kind of thing, instead of looking at it and saying, you know what, we always need to have a pen and paper right there at the desk so that we can communicate that way if we need to. Simple stuff, but nobody pays attention to it. So that's where my passion is. So you can get me going on that for a long time. So before we end, I will circle back to that one other comment or story that I told you about climbing the steps at my parents' house for the first time in 15 years. The accident was 17 years ago. 2 years into my recovery, I got a pair of legs that had a microprocessor that controlled the knee. That did not give me the artificial intelligence that does the lift assist and all that kind of stuff. But I tried to walk up the steps then, and I got up there and I said, okay, I'm never doing this again. And then the advancements in technology that I got to test this week completely changed that. And if anybody wants to see that, search for me on Facebook if we're not already connected. If we're not connected, we should be. So send me a friend request. But if you want to see video of me going up those steps, it was just amazing. So that is currently posted on Facebook on both my page and my wife's page. Since I've just brought up my wife, I should also probably give a little plug for her. She's a shamanic priestess, among other things, and is currently working on putting together a upcoming women's, it's a women's circle, a priestess process, but it is very much a therapeutic process. So if anybody is interested in that, she is looking for a group of about 12 to 15 women who are interested in participating in that. It is a 4-weekend thing that's spread out over like an 8-month period. So
I just had one thing I put in the chat. My organization, Ambassadors of Hope, is hosting a program called Life in Limbo. And what that is an interactive foster care simulation workshop.
Oh,
So
wow.
the participants will take on the role of being either the bio parent, a child, or the foster parent. And we'll walk through what life is like when you have an open case in the child welfare system with some fun and interactive activities. So this event is completely free. We're hosting it on June 17th from 1 to 4. There is a time where I'm providing you lunch, so don't have to worry about that. I'll feed you good. And then, we'll do that activities, and then we're going to have a debriefing session about the experience. So that's why it's kind of in that time frame. So I put the registration link for Eventbrite through Eventbrite in the chat. And if you guys are wanting to come, if you thought about fostering or just curious about what it's like for people involved in the system, if you know anybody who would be interested in that, any other organizations you work with, please feel free to pass that along. Thank you,
Thank
Heather.
you. And thank you for adding that at the last minute. Yes, so thank you all.
And Jeremy, can you put your wife's info in the chat box too for this 4-weekend retreat thing?
I would be happy to.
I think that's the official term. I think that's, politically correct.
I never
Thank you.
describe it well, but yeah, so but yeah, so it's irena@walkingspirit.org. And that is, I believe they're starting that in August, I think.
Okay.
And to give you an idea, when I first met her, she was going through this process, and when I say therapeutic, some of the things that they were doing as a group, she had to marry herself, which meant, embracing, loving yourself and making vows regarding that. And then another piece of it was that she had to write her own obituary and truly think about how she wanted to be remembered. So those are just two little aspects. A lot of what they do is what she refers to as shadow work. So if anybody's familiar with what that is, it's looking in the mirror, basically. So yeah, I get that in here, and then it will also be in there when I send this out, when I get the next meeting set up. So thank you all again so much. There you go. So be well. See you next month. Reach out to me if you need me for anything or want to have any offline conversations. So take care.